This is a film study video to not just look at the impact that Kyle Hamilton has making plays, whether it's in coverage as a blitzer or against the run, but also how he forces or shapes opposing teams' offensive coordinators and head coaches to actually funnel their play calls away from him. You don't really have to go very far or look too hard in order to see evidence of this against the Dolphins. The first 2 or 3 plays here are going to kind of illustrate that. The Ravens are basing out of a nickel defense generally, so the ball on one hash basically determines or predetermines where Kyle Hamilton will be. I've seen this dynamic at other lower levels of football, high school, maybe even to a certain extent college. It's almost like a Where's Waldo, meaning if Kyle Hamilton's lined up to our left, let's run the ball to our right. Now, this is an example that actually works in the Ravens' favor. I think it's a really nice run read by Buchanan, who's kind of lined up at the mic in this position, but also just check out what the Ravens are doing now as we get later into the season, finally kind of recognizing certain backfield sets. Basically, if you're not majoring in the pistol, number one, the pistol ends up being primarily a run alignment by the running back. In addition, you've definitely got to tell here with the tailback, Gordon, for the Dolphins, if anyone wanted to look at him in terms of when he's getting the football. He kind of flares his elbows out to the side, but it's a real nice read by Buchanan, but it's also indicated, or I should say, flowing from the fact that really Miami can't get anything done out of 11 personnel because of the way we're lined up, meaning Hamilton is essentially almost a fourth inside linebacker here. I'm going to refer to him continually as a nickel Sam because he's a hybrid. They're lining him up basically all over the place in this defense. They could be a 3-4 structure, 4-3, or 4-4 kind of, which is what you see here. This is the same play from the all-22 angle again. We're on the second possession. It's a 1st and 10. They can't really combo with the center and the guard and get out to Buchanan in time. So he's essentially just unblocked, but he does a nice job of getting his cleats in the ground and then reorienting back to the running back's path. The motion can be matched by Gilman, and this is going to be one of my theories here in this video, which is motion to Kyle Hamilton and motion away from him should be treated in a different manner by the Ravens defense. So that really perfectly leads into this play from the third possession, again with the ball on the left hash. Predetermines where Kyle Hamilton is since we're a base nickel defense here generally. So he's to the field or underneath of that blue line for us. Fast sweep to the boundary for Achane, and I have to give the Dolphins credit. They blocked this really well. The boundary side receiver kind of steps to Wiggins, who didn't play with a lot of physicality or discipline, in my opinion, on Thursday. Steps to Wiggins, and then he'll veer off to go smack the will linebacker in the mouth, and then the running back, who's set in the backfield, is going to lead the way for Achane. So you got this very real dynamic that occurs in this game, in my opinion, of teams, or Mike McDaniel's teams, should say, running the ball away from Kyle Hamilton as much as possible. And you can see they've got things blocked up into the boundary. My theory, or the thing that I'm going So basically the theory or suggestion I want to offer is that motion away from Kyle Hamilton should open up the possibility of a safety rolling down and the other safety rolling to center field. Versus, or compared to motion to Kyle Hamilton, I do not think we need Starks or Gilman, depending on where the ball is, to sit down or roll down to help him out. Essentially, force teams to take advantage of Kyle Hamilton's set to the field. In this case, Miami is really just manipulating us, in my opinion, by giving us some type of motion to or away from Kyle Hamilton and then exploiting us in the other direction. This is the same possession, or same play, I should say, from the end zone angle. It's the third possession. Really nice play call, if you ask me. You've got Tua accepting the ball and then this kind of weird fake up in the air as if it's a high snap. But look how they get this blocked up. First of all, they've got the running back leading out on Wiggins. This receiver had initially stepped to Wiggins and then peeled off to Buchanan, who he's able to seal off. And you can see the lane that Achane is able to run through right here. One more for good measure, just to illustrate my point about how often Miami was doing everything they could to avoid Kyle Hamilton. Ball on the left hash, and they've gone jumbo 22 personnel. So 2 tight ends on the field, one of which is the 6th offensive lineman, fullback, tailback, which is Achane. Motion to the field, and in my opinion, what we should not do on motion to Kyle Hamilton is move a safety back. And you see this dynamic illustrated a couple of times in this video, but it happened more than just twice against the Dolphins. Nice job, if you ask me, by the outside tight end, Wiggins. Again, I did not think he played his best game, number one. Number two, I think this is the left tackle, Paul, comboing, and then he's going to peel off to seal down Buchanan, and you can see the lane that develops to the outside. Gilman does end up making the tackle. What I'm offering here is the suggestion or the possibility that someone for the Ravens should look at, okay, personnel. So when they motion the fullback away, we don't need to fly out of here with the safety. We have a run threat into the boundary over here, and that's it. Meaning you've got a tight end and a sixth offensive lineman. Let Kyle Hamilton, let offenses run the ball, try to move the ball successfully, going to Kyle Hamilton as much as possible. And, once we see that happen consistently, then perhaps we'll adjust. Perhaps it sounds simplistic to you guys, same play from the end zone angle, but it gets really tiresome to see us manipulated by motion, basically. And what I'm saying we should not do is roll this safety back and then Starks down. Now, Starks, in fact, does not roll down. He would be almost another wasted player here, if you ask me. Conceptually, this is very similar to what the Rams do against pretty much everyone in the NFL who overreacts to motion. I'm very interested to see how teams attack us moving forward. With Kyle Hamilton set to the field, it seems obvious to me that a lot of run threats, a lot of designed run plays are going to go into the boundary. I should add that not just Kyle Hamilton being lined up to the field, but Roquan Smith is playing spectacular in the last 2 weeks. Perhaps, early Monday I can try to get something put out on him the way he's played against the Bears and the Dolphins. Still on that third possession, that should say 2nd and 4, not 2nd and 14. So again, you've got a jumbo personnel group. In this case, it's the 6th offensive lineman and the fullback, so jumbo 21. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. From a fullback standpoint for Miami, I think he's taken a little bit too wide of a path. It's supposed to be zone down here. Hamilton has blitzed off the edge, totally destroyed the scheme because the tackle is dealing with Brent Urban, who stunts to the inside. It's kind of that old classic discussion or conversation point for defensive coordinators. Do you want to slant into the zone or do you want to slant away from it? Here, the Ravens slant into it and then bring Kyle Hamilton off the edge. So Hamilton's going to step down to the outside. He, of course, gets a TFL, but Urban is not only stunting in here, but Jenkins is stunting across the center's face, and Miami is basically trying to run the zone this way. So we're slanting or stunting into the zone. Some people think that you should slant with it and basically run with it. I like to slant against it and predetermine what the running back's going to have to do. Basically bounce it. Now, that option is not here for Achane at all, but we're talking about these guys slanting into the zone or against the grain of the zone, forcing the running back to, or removing, I should say, the running back's option to possibly cut it downhill. He really didn't have an option here because Kyle Hamilton timed it up perfectly. Still on that third possession, Miami's actually gained a new set of downs, and on a fire zone call, I think we dropped Green out in coverage. I could be wrong there, but Hamilton set to the field one more time, attacking away from him. I think I've made my point at this juncture, but it's a pin-pull concept out of zone. So basically, the two guards are stepping down on the defense tackles. The center is going to work up to, I think that's Buchanan, the will linebacker, and the backside tackle is going to loop all the way around and try to go get Roquan. Same dynamic is occurring that I've kind of described already, which is motion is manipulating us, in my opinion. The motion away to the field towards Kyle Hamilton, Gilman is rolling to center field, perhaps not at that angle, and Starks is at least pushing in this direction. In my opinion, we should hold, meaning Gilman has vacated that space that Achane clearly runs onto. I think that the Ravens coaching staff absolutely needs to discuss how often Miami was able to manipulate them by this type of motion and essentially wasting Kyle Hamilton and simultaneously wasting the safety on the other side. I just don't think that you can do that. Now, does that mean that we stay in a one-high structure this often? Perhaps, until we get to a passing down. I don't think that we can allow ourselves to be manipulated like this. And just in the couple of hours that I spent watching film Saturday night into Sunday morning trying to produce this, I think it becomes pretty obvious what McDaniel and the Dolphins coaching staff was trying to get accomplished. Basically, avoid Kyle Hamilton at all costs. Same play from the end zone angle. Really, I would just call this jet dive. So the jet motion is illustrated by this orange line. It's 11 personnel. And then Hamilton's going to widen, number one. Number two, Gilman's going to roll back and have his eyes in this direction, looking for some type of crosser. So we're just, in my opinion, oblivious to the fact that this could be a run play. Buchanan ends up being, they do a nice job of blocking it. I think we've got problems at the defensive tackle position here anyway. But Buchanan ends up getting blocked by the center, like I said. And then Roquan perhaps could be a little bit more forceful, but he's got the defensive tackle in his lap to try to navigate and move or scrape over the top of, which always makes it difficult. As such, the tackle was able to get to him. A huge gain by Achane. I remember when that happened during the game. I was like, what the heck is going on? And now watching the film multiple times over, this being the third time, I'm like, oh, it makes complete sense. They're just running away from Kyle Hamilton, number one. Number two, they're forcing us to rotate the safeties, so we've actually subtracted at least one guy from the run fit, if not 1.5. Keep in mind, these things that I'm presenting to you are just in a chronological order, so I've not been able to pick and choose what I want to show, but it happened to just work out this way. Hamilton, as I kind of mentioned earlier, you can play whatever you want with him. 4-3, so I'm going to refer to him as a nickel Sam, where Roquan is the Mike and Buchanan is the Will. He could walk up and be in the 3-4, kind of like that stunt, that tackle for loss that you saw him have off the edge when we stunted into the grain of the zone for the Dolphins, and he was able to tackle the running back for a loss. It could be a pure nickel 4-2-5, which from a personnel standpoint, that's what it is. This is power, so they're trying to kick out Ojabo, and I think he does a really nice job in this 6 technique, slightly outside of a 6 technique, but basically he's stepping down with the tight end. They're trying to kick him out with the fullback. In addition, watch how Hamilton plays this with the wide receiver. The awareness, the size, strength, and then ability to get off of this blocker. This is very rare. I don't know that there's another Kyle Hamilton in the NFL. If there is, he's probably playing linebacker because of his size, but Hamilton can play safety. We've seen that so far in the last year plus when he fixed or helped fix the Ravens defense last year by moving backwards. This year he fixed it by moving forwards. In my opinion, the biggest factor, Roquan Smith playing better, yes. Picking up Gilman, of course, that freed the way or lit the path, I guess, to moving Kyle Hamilton forward. His ability, his unique versatility, and his impact against blockers is one of none. He's as rare or unique on the defensive side, in my opinion, as Lamar is on the other side. Give you the same play from the end zone angle, probably crudely drawn. So fullback's supposed to kick out Ojabo, running back roughly going on that path. It's Gordon once again, who, like I said, every time he's going to get the ball, kind of like flares his arms out like violently, gives it away completely because he doesn't do the same thing exactly on pass. But in any case, watch the violence of Hamilton coming downhill, overwhelming the wide receiver. If the running back bounced it there, we've got an unblocked corner. I think it's a Awuzie and a safety, Starks. So he just makes everyone right on this defense, at least so far, particularly against Miami. It's a really nice job there, if you ask me, of illustrating that he's a deterrent. Him and Roquan, they're a deterrent to the field. Essentially, if you want to try to get something accomplished in the run game to the field, go right ahead. I would welcome that because at this point, even out of our nickel structure, Hamilton and him would have it covered. Same possession, third possession, it's a 2nd and 7. Very next play, in fact, we're still up 7-3. So this really unique T formation. You've almost got 4 players lined up across, which I've almost never seen before. But in any case, the running back from the top side is Gordon once again. He's going to motion all the way across. Hamilton ends up being the force player. This is obviously the really nice play by Mike Green. We'll rewind this a couple of times and let you guys see it. But fighting off the offensive tackle, the right tackle, Hamilton basically plays this a little bit like old school NBA basketball guys did. Essentially, do you want to play with this level of physicality all game as at the wide receiver position, at the tight end position, fullback position? What I would do if I was an offense tasked with dealing with Hamilton, if you want to try to stay balanced, let's put it that way. If you want to try to stay balanced and actually go to the field some against him, I think you've got to rotate guys who block him. Meaning, you can't ask the same player to try to block Hamilton 6 or 7 times in the first half. He's going to wear them down. I would try to rotate guys on him, very similar to how you try to rotate defenders on a great scorer in basketball. Basically, make him work just to get the ball. But I'll give you the end zone angle of this one. This is Green spinning out of here against the right tackle, and then Buchanan finishing it off. It's a really great play, by those two guys, especially Mike Green. But Hamilton's not just supremely talented physically and athletically gifted. He's fundamental. Here you're the force player, and he wants to force everything in to his teammates where he's got a lot of help. I don't have Hamilton on the screen, obviously, on this end zone angle, but this is Green, who really, if you ask me, is exploding in terms of all the things that he's able to get done. So watch him play through the contact here. I'll do this slow motion a couple of times. Hamilton, of course, has forced the ball back inside. To be able to spin out in the middle of the play and then make first contact on the running back. This is a spectacular job by Mike Green. It illustrates the athletic ability, and then also Buchanan inside-out angle, which is, what you're supposed to do at the inside linebacker position, then finish off whatever shows up. It's a great illustration of, two of our young guys, two of our rookies, but also Hamilton being the force player, ensuring that they had an actual opportunity to make the play. Still on that same third possession, I think this is the missed field goal by the Dolphins that allows us to retain a 7-3 lead. But in any case, late motion over. This is a nice little switch between Hamilton and Wiggins. Wiggins is initially lined up over Achane, and there was some communication from Gilman and Hamilton to move him over pre-snap. So once he gets over there, being Hamilton, he just tells Wiggins to move over really quickly. I didn't think Wiggins played his best game, to be honest with you. He ends up giving up a short completion here. Kind of gets lost, if you ask me, dealing with Waddle in this short space. But from a Hamilton perspective, he's got Achane blanketed. I think he just totally wiped him out of 2 routes. And Achane, he has 43 catches this year, 4 touchdowns. He had some catches against us, but none against Hamilton. I thought him and Roquan did an amazing job of limiting that guy's opportunities in the pass game. Like I said, quick completion down here to Waddle. And this is the possession when Wiggins Van Noy triggers or draws a false start on the right tackle by kind of moving down the line of scrimmage. Just a vet move. And then Miami ended up not being able to go for it on a 4th and 1. And then they missed the ensuing field goal. Ball's now in the middle of the field, which I think is interesting from a play call standpoint. I wonder what the Dolphins coaching staff was doing a couple of times when the ball's in the middle of the field, meaning are they still just going to run the play to whichever side? This happens to be a reverse. I suspect, if they knew Hamilton was going to be here, then they wouldn't run this to his side. It ends up still being a gain for Miami. I think it's one of the Washingtons. After Hamilton, totally destroys the concept, basically annihilates the blocker. Look how far back he made them retreat. You're talking about 10 yards back beyond the line of scrimmage. The line of scrimmage is the negative 35, and Washington had to retreat all the way back. I think we've got a really great example of poor eye discipline from Wiggins. I mean, you're in off coverage. There's one wide receiver to your side. Yes, he's lined up compressed. He disappeared. What kind of play do you think is happening? And we're still getting depth. Wiggins' reactions this game were really weird. In addition, these two guys kind of give us nothing initially on the backside, trying to, in terms of closing the door. Buchanan does finally recognize it and then won't commit to the angle. I'm talking about right here. All of your help is in here, man. Let the ball go back in there. Because he hesitates just for a moment, then Washington is able to still get over the top of this block by, I think that's Achane. Wiggins does get back involved in the play. Both of those guys make the tackle, so good for them. Just feel like it's an illustration of how unaware we can be at times, really talking about Wiggins. End zone angle, the same play. Not only does Hamilton disrupt this, but Travis Jones played spectacular on Thursday night. I thought he overwhelmed their interior offensive lineman. You can see he's taken the center and basically driving him all the way back. Hamilton has reset the line of scrimmage -10, which is, very rare. And again, I don't know what Wiggins was looking at all because he's drifting, looking for the reverse. We're very fortunate that one didn't end up being a really big play because Wiggins has got so much athletic ability he was able to recover. And then Buchanan on an inside-out angle limited it, I think, to a 6-yard gain. All right, 4th possession, another one that unfortunately doesn't really reflect well on Wiggins. We'll run this through one time, talk about Wiggins, and then we'll come back and talk about Hamilton. He's up at the top side, lined up against Twins. It's an empty set out of 12 personnel, so it's a very unique formation, don't get me wrong. You got 2 tight ends lined up as a tight end wing, and then the running back, I think, Achane, lined up to the boundary. Underneath route by Achane, and then this kind of pseudo wheel by the outside tight end. Inside tight end, I think, is Dulcich, and he's going to run a seam in between the top of the numbers and the left hash. Wiggins kind of steps up for a moment for whatever reason. It is a cover 2. And so then when you have the flat, you have the wheel. Now, he doesn't know that this is a wheel necessarily because that guy didn't release to the outside and then cross his face, basically going in this direction, okay? That tight end from his tight end alignment, I should say, basically splits him and Buchanan. I just feel like Wiggins could play this a little bit better in terms of turning and going, but he's got cover too. He's got flats, basically, so he doesn't want to turn and go. But we're very fortunate that this didn't end up being a completed pass, in my opinion. If you recall, this is after the big pass to Marlon's side on a sluggo route that was negated by a penalty that probably shouldn't have been called on Miami. So we're very fortunate to not have given up a big play, the completion to Waddle for, I think, 37 yards, or have given up this completion to Wiggins' side. Let me pull this back, and then we'll focus on what we're getting up top from Kyle Hamilton. So he's basically playing 2 into 1. So just in case you don't know, that's 1 and that's 2. You number from outside in, from the sideline in. So he's working 2 to 1, and he does it perfectly. I mean, it's wherever you put Kyle Hamilton, he does everything well. In this case, he switches off the route with the outside corner up there. It's Marlon. And then takes over number 1. Again, not targeted at all. We know where the ball goes. We know what could have been the payback for it. We're very fortunate there that we ended up forcing him to punt. 5th possession now. He's down here at the bottom side of the screen with the ball on the right hash. Green gets through here, I think possibly a hold. This is the second time I've seen Green use this inside stunt, and I love it. He has so many pass rushes that are outside moves. He loves the cross chop. He got quick wins twice by jumping to the inside. Now, I think it's probably just part of a stunt because you've got Starks jumping down off the edge, and then Green ends up wide open underneath. I do feel like the center possibly ends up holding him briefly. They didn't call it. It's an incomplete pass over the middle to Waddle. Couple of things to mention here. So Hamilton is now on a wide receiver, number 1. Roquan is on the running back. Both of those guys, I think, absolutely do a great job. Hamilton blankets this guy with physicality. Roquan's is, knowing, understanding not to come downhill and then possibly give up the wheel. Compare that with how Buchanan played it a little bit later. We were very fortunate that one ended up being overturned. I still personally wonder about, whether it should have been. But in any case, it's a really nice job by those two guys of playing with, first of all, physicality, Hamilton on the wide receiver, and then playing with proper leverage, Roquan against the running back. Same play from the end zone angle. Here's the matchups that we're talking about there and there. Try to take a look at Green for a moment. As Starks steps up to blitz off the edge, Green will stunt inside. He's definitely held briefly, and then I'll come back and talk about Buchanan being matched up against this tight end. I guess the center is trying to hold, but to me, when you see an offensive lineman reach his hand out as obviously as you get here, grab with his left hand, and then try to grab with his right hand. Perhaps he didn't actually hold, but he damn sure tried to. In any case, it ends up being an incomplete pass over the middle to Waddle against Wiggins. I do worry a little bit about showing this on film. So as this receiver motions through, that's going to take Marlon with him. Because we are blitzing this safety, Gilman's in center field. That leaves Buchanan basically one-on-one with this tight end. I'm worried about, teams seeing that and then possibly trying to put us in that position at some point during future games and take advantage of that opportunity. Buchanan's not really good in pass coverage. That's why he's not on the field most of the time on third downs. Throughout parts of the first half, Miami was either trying to avoid Kyle Hamilton, number 1, or number 2, just search for ways to be able to find matchups that they could win. In this case, they've motioned the tight end out on this 3rd and 10 on the 5th possession and got Kyle Hamilton to move out with them. So they've elicited the coverage paradigm or coverage structure, I should say, from the Ravens, confirming that it's man. Really nice job by Roquan on this route from Achane emanating from the backfield. 3rd and 10, like I said, and they've figured out that it's man coverage, so I think Tua knows where he wants to go with the football. Roquan was 3 for 3 covering Achane in man-to-man situations, or one of which was probably just zone into the boundary. But this is a 3rd down where we're in our, quote, new dime look with Simpson, Van Noy, Roquan, and Hamilton typically lined up on the line of scrimmage. In this case, since the Dolphins motioned the tight end out, it left Roquan, as the obvious guy to cover the running back if it weren't going to be Simpson. He did a great job, number 1. Number 2, he just got up and jogged off because it didn't seem like a very big deal. Finally, I think this is actually the 6th possession. I believe I have this mislabeled here as the 5th. But we're in this mug look on 4th and 2, so we're bringing heavy pressure. Buchanan's going to end up with a free rush here off the edge, but he doesn't really have time to get there because Tua's getting rid of the ball so quickly. This is what is very questionable, if you ask me, and I think Richard Sherman covered it well at halftime and even after the game. It's a one-on-one with Achane and Hamilton. Waddle has beaten Marlon. Waddle has beaten Wiggins at various points during the first half, and instead the matchup that he chooses to go to is the slot fade. First of all, I think it's a poor decision by McDaniel to go for it here at 14-6 with, I think, a little over 1 minute left in the half. Yeah, we do get the ball to start the third quarter, so I understand that the opportunity there to possibly double up. In my opinion, this is not a matchup that they should expect to win, nor would anyone else against Kyle Hamilton. Meaning on a slot fade with his size and length and athleticism, once he's able to get hands on people, I feel like he's going to shut down or wipe out that route. In any case, Hamilton played a spectacular game, didn't end up with a ton of tackles. Roquan led the way with 12. I think Buchanan had 8. Maybe another player had 8. Starks had 5. But you can see throughout especially the beginning of this video, the Dolphins went out of their way to avoid trying to attack him. And when they did, when the ball did end up to Hamilton's side, whether it was a bubble screen pass, the 4th and 2 that you just saw, the unfortunate 4th and 2 from a Dolphins perspective, or a run concept, Hamilton is involved with just absolutely wiping it out. He's a spectacular football player playing at an incredibly high level. I think the Ravens have as unique a player as exists in possibly all of sports on the offensive side in Lamar Jackson. And Kyle Hamilton's not far behind on the defensive side. For a defensive player to be able to play nickel, out in space, and cover, in addition, step into the box as a 4-3 inside linebacker, walk up on the line of scrimmage as a blitzer, Sam hybrid, Sam in the 4-3 structure, and then blitz up the middle to help the Ravens balance things out in the run game. We are in for a treat every week that we get to watch him play football. I think Hamilton has as wide a range of skills as any defensive player in the NFL. I'm really struggling to think of another guy who has as wide a range of skills. The only player that I think would compare possibly would be Brian Branch, because he can cover well, he tackles exceptionally, steps into the box, he's really good as a blitzer. The difference to me, at least from the film that I see, and keep in mind I watch every Ravens game and every Lions game live, and then also try to study it as best I can. With the film I have, through the All-22 and the end zone angles, teams are not avoiding Brian Branch. I think the Dolphins made it obvious that they were doing so for large stretches of their Thursday night game, and that's why I tried to present to you the plays that I did in the order that they were. In any case, if you enjoyed the video this morning, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Kyle Hamilton and how he played this week against the Miami Dolphins, but specifically what the Dolphins did to avoid allowing him to make plays, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.